The year is at an end. Next Sunday, Advent launches the new Christian year and the anticipation of all the wonders that are to come. But today is the best day to turn and look over our shoulders at the year that just has been. And what an odd one it is. Our second COVID year, and the insecurities remain, and the fears and the doubts and the divisions. Some have hope, some rage, some doubt, some despair, and some dream of a new and improved world after COVID. But the church doors are open once again, and we're together, even if our numbers are somewhat reduced from death, illness, and isolation. That has been multiplied by the decrees of our bishops and the edicts of health officials, all designed to keep us healthy, but they have reduced our involvement in worship. We no longer sing out our hymns, share in the wine of communion, or stay after church to gossip and celebrate birthdays and enjoy each other's company. But we are back. COVID has resulted in many finding new ways to worship, online, on radio, and TV. Some joined internet Bible studies, and I discovered a wonderful cleric in England, Robert Willis, the Dean of Canterbury Cathedral, who does morning prayer surrounded by animals and makes wonderful sense of the gospel. We learn to appreciate little things that we took for granted in the past. The ability to hug, or even shake hands. We never realized how much we would miss not being able to drop into the local restaurant instead of cooking at home, or being able to enter a store without wearing a mask. And the locked doors of the gym initially was a great and legitimate excuse not to exercise, until the scales started moving up and sleep didn't come quite as easily at night. Working at home has its great charms. Picking hours that work for you, getting the laundry done while working. A sandwich from the kitchen is far cheaper than the offerings at the restaurant across the street from the office. And best of all, your wardrobe is far less expensive. No pantyhose, no mandated fashions, and the track pants aren't visible online, so only the top needs to go office style. And knowing dinner is cooking in the oven while enjoying a pre-dinner martini while closing down the computer is definitely a perk never before enjoyed at the office. But contact on Zoom or Skype is not the same as in person. Sure, you see what the others look like, but you miss the handshakes, the jokes, the winks and nods and eye rolling. You miss laughing together and updating on the family and the weather and the plans for the weekend. You just do the business, and then you're gone. We had an election, unique, unlike any other. We didn't have rallies or people knocking on the door or candidate debates that we could attend. Instead, the phone rang on and on with recorded messages telling us why we should vote for one candidate or another. And yet little changed. And then there was the tragedy of Afghanistan, the destruction of those dreams of freedom and some form of democracy, with women living in an equal society, being educated and working beside men. But it was not to be, and the shame that will forever be ours, the translators and workers at our embassy, whom we did not rescue or provide with a safe route out, and who now live in fear, knowing that without our help, they and their families are on a death list. And we even failed to fund safe houses to shelter them. It has been the year of a very open wallet. We've gone more deeply into debt as a nation than ever before, even during the war years, and those monies will remain for our great-grandchildren to repay. On the other hand, as individuals, most of us have been saving money if we remained employed. When there's nowhere to go, your money stays at home. When restaurants and bars, theaters and sports facilities are closed, the money goes to watch movies on TV or the computer, and more is spent on groceries and home delivery. But a can of Coke from the fridge is a lot less expensive than one at the corner store. Money is definitely saved when dinner is not served by wait staff at fine linen and china and silver for a great night out. The Uber delivery of plastic cutlery and a bagged meal that you consume while watching TV does not compare. All these changes mean money left over at the end of the week, but they also make for lonely evenings and really lonely dinners. And no vacations to far-off lands. saving up for that trip to the castles of Europe or the beaches of Bermuda or the bustle of New York City. They've been on pause for so long, and the borders still difficult to get through. Local wanderings have been a great alternative, but the masks and the closed doors and locked loos in the parklands take so much away. But we're already planning where we will go when the doors and borders are once again open. Newspapers remind us how war never ends. It seems that every day there's another country in a state of revolt or rebellion or assassination, and there seems no hope that will ever end. And there's no idea how we could be part of the solution. Small graves bombarded the conscience of Canada this past year. Ignored reports from a decade ago told the tale of unmarked graveyards at residential schools. But the reality of it all suddenly flared in a cacophony of rebuke and guilt and horror. We seek to atone and make amends, and we admit that we could have done better, and we commit to doing better for the future. We have tried to figure out the meaning of lowering our nation's flag. Is it to honor the dead, lowered and then raised again the same day, or after a funeral takes place? Or are flags to be left down to acknowledge a yet unaddressed wrong? Like so much else, it's differing perspectives on any issue that divides or unites us. More than anything else that has happened in the COVID era, we have learned that people left on their own tend to develop very strong and very stiff opinions because it's become so easy to hear only voices that echo your own. To listen to radio stations and television channels and Twitter and Facebook and all the other media, you can always find someone somewhere who will tell you what you want to hear, will emphasize your opinions, will confirm the righteousness of the stance you take and the criticisms you voice. Whether right or wrong, there's a voice out there that will assure you that you are on the side of the angels. Unless, of course, you don't believe in angels. And in all of this, the woke folk and the ghosters and the cyberbullies diminish and destroy the greatest value of democratic life, free speech. For we must be able to speak and to explore the thoughts of others without fear of being silenced, losing our jobs, or becoming social pariahs. Free speech only exists when one can say things that are unpopular or unfashionable, even rude, or scariest of all, new ideas. And without it, there is no freedom. Scandals have become the everyday gossip of news channels. We ignore those we like when they sin, and we excoriate those we dislike when they do the same thing. Our outrage is tempered by who, rather than what. And how are we going to change that? And so many seem to be seeking excuses for their bad behavior, linked to color, sex, age, accent, faith, or whatever else they can find to divide us. It used to be that we sought to eliminate the things that divided and create color blindness in our dealings with others. Where they came from, what their religion was, who their parents were, the color of their skin, or whether their family arrived in Canada over an ice bridge, in a sailboat, or on a jet plane was not to matter. How hard they worked, how they cared for others, how they kept the law and were proud of this nation. That was what counted. How can we abandon that goal and replace it with division and preferential treatment? How can we, as Christians, deem that some are more worthy? And worthy of what? For we are all loved and cared for and saved by Jesus. He was a Jew, and yet he cared for those who were not. Inspired nations of heretics and Gentiles and Goyim to follow in his footsteps. And then the year climaxed, or fizzled, in the battle against climate change that took place in Glasgow. So many speeches, so many people traveling from afar to support or oppose or just be part of something big. And all that jetting about resulting in eye-watering amounts of fossil fuels spewing out their emissions. So let's stop relying on the leaders for all the answers. Let's do our own bit. And if each of us did their little bit, there would be an enormous impact. Deciding to walk a few extra blocks rather than taking out the car, or biking instead of using public transit. lowering our thermostat by a degree or so in winter, and setting the air conditioner to start up at a slightly higher temperature come summertime. It all makes a difference. So start by asking yourself some questions. How long do you take in the shower? Where do your exotic fruits come from? Do you use bottled water? Do you compost your garden waste? Will your next car be electric? Do you turn off lights in rooms you're not using? Do you do your laundry during the low times of power usage? Do you support local businesses or go online regardless of the distance things will be shipped? Have you planted a vegetable garden or planted a tree? Do you recycle? Do you buy your foods from farms within 100 miles from the store? Or does the entire world contribute to your plate? Do you boycott buying from or traveling to countries who won't sign on to real change and reduction in pollution? Instead of demonstrating with science and protests, let's demonstrate our commitment to a healthier tomorrow for our world by taking steps ourselves, small or large. The cumulative impact of what individuals do to cool things down will make a difference. And our individual actions are the best way of showing the leaders what we back and where they should be legislating and spending our money. So, as we look back, hopefully counting more good days than bad, and look to the future, let's commit to making ours a better world through our own efforts. Forget waiting for the politicians or the priests or the other. It's on us this time. Shall we commit to living better lives in which we go forth on our own pilgrimage of faith? Whether it be a Bible study group, a trip to the Shrine of the Martyrs in Midland, or walk the Rosary at Merlin, or go on a trip of a lifetime to the Holy Land. Another goal. May we be valorous in defending our faith against those who seek to secularize society. May we pray for and bless others. And may we live our lives to reflect the freedoms we enjoy, the values that we hold, and the courage of our faith. So may it be. Amen. Looking back at what's happened since Advent began in 2020 is instructive. A year of hopes and fears, of triumphs and failures, of dreams and disasters. And the new Christian year launches next week. How will you look back on the past year? What will you remember with awe and with gratitude? And what was anything but?